Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Lant, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 11. Today we have a full house. I'm joined by James St. Pierre. Say hey.
Hey.
And I'm also joined by Peter Lant. Say hey.
What ho?
Well, there's always somebody's contrary. Awkward. I don't want to say that.
Awkward is the word, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Episode 11. We're recording this, 3 days after the news that there's going to be a second lockdown in the UK. So lockdown 2.0. That lockdown is scheduled to last 4 weeks. So we'll be coming out of it at the beginning of December. What that means for everyone is going to be different. Obviously, a lot of businesses will be shutting down. Many of you have been through this before. I expect all of you in some way. And we're kind of joining an international community where many other countries are experiencing the same. So we knew that the lockdown was perhaps on its way. We were going through the tier system, tier 1, 2, and 3, and the variety of different terminology that came with. But I don't think we all knew, I certainly didn't expect to go into a lockdown maybe now, but we are where we are, and that means we need to be still looking after ourselves. That hasn't changed, and many of you are going to come through lockdown 1 with something you've learned. That could be that, you need to take better care of yourself, or that the things that work then will continue to work in lockdown 2. So if you exercise consistently in lockdown 1, you're going to be doing the same in lockdown 2, perhaps slightly different now that there's no nice weather. You may be less inclined to go out and go for a run or go on a bike. There are certain things that are open. There's certain changes, and we were discussing before we press record. The schools are now open, which makes a big difference to a lot of people, particularly as free time was taken up. I know it was for my wife, particularly while I was working. She was doing some homeschooling with my son, who's now 5, and that took up 2 hours in the morning, which may be 2 hours you can now exercise online or doing whatever you do. So today we just thought we'd discuss, obviously this podcast goes out a week after the lockdown has commenced. It starts on Thursday, the 4th, 5th?
The 5th.
Yeah.
Bonfire night.
Bonfire night, there we go, I should know that. So bonfire night, if you don't know, if you're from the US or from Europe, bonfire night is basically where we set alight to a load of fireworks, explosives, dangerous.
Isn't it ironic as well, because it all started from some bloke who tried to blow up the House of Commons?
Well,
that's quite timely, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I don't know if that's a political message telling us we all need to know our place.
That doesn't mean anything. It was just an observation, so don't do anything silly.
It's all right. We can't see the explosives below the camera. Just don't light that cigarette. I was asked today, actually, because I went to hospital, do I smoke? Which I don't think would be a good advert for a personal trainer. But
they wouldn't know.
I mean, there might be personal trainers out there that do smoke. I'm not one of them. I think probably in the 1950s, it was probably quite common. Anyway, I'm going off track. So, we're just going to have some musings and thoughts around lockdown 2 and what it means for the way we're running things and what you could potentially be doing in order to stay fit. Obviously, with the run up to Christmas coming, most people switch off and say, I'll wait for the new year to get fit. Is that going to change with this lockdown? Are you going to feel pretty cooped up? Are you going to feel frustrated? Or are you just going to resign yourself to the fact that you'll deal with it in the new year? So who wants to talk first? Maybe I'll ask Peter. Sorry, I put you on the spot. You put me on the spot last time, so I thought I'd give it. I know.
Well, that's a memory, that.
I don't forget.
Get you.
I don't forget.
The biggest thing I think, so the biggest difference, we were just talking about this before we started recording as well, was, it's another lockdown. It's not convenient for anybody. It's not ideal, but it's not new because it's happened before. So when it happened last time, it was like, whoa, what goes on here? We've never had this before. We've never done it. You know, unless you're over, you know, you're 120 years old, you've not really experienced this before. And, you know, we've spoke about this on previous podcasts about getting your habits in place and what have you. And then Paul, you mentioned that, you know, if you're a healthy person, you go out and find healthy things to do, regardless of whether your gym's open or whatever, regardless of the weather, regardless of all of that. So it's not new. The only difference is it's now dark at like 5 o'clock. And the weather's not so good because it was nice. Inevitably, you know, it was lovely weather just as lockdown hit last time, wasn't it? And we were only allowed out for an hour. So I'd say this time, the biggest thing for me is I spend a lot of time outside. I haven't been for the last couple of days because we've gone straight online because I'm able to, because I haven't got a premises or anything like that. So we went straight online because it's just safer for everyone, isn't it? And I would say I've spent more time indoors these last 2 days. It's only been 2 days. I've been out once today for 10 minutes. I'm usually out way longer than that. And it's not like, you know, it hasn't made me depressed or anything, but I'm just looking outside now. It's windy. I can see clouds and all that. I live in a basement flat, so it's quite dark. Okay. But as soon as I leave the flat and go outside, I look outside and I'm like, oh, I don't want to go out there. It looks horrible. As soon as I go out, and it's actually okay. It's way better than you think. And that's going to happen to people working from home who, you know, sitting looking out the window. Oh, it's windy out in the garden and all that. There's leaves blowing about all over the place. So I'm not going to do anything. I'll just stay in. I'll work throughout the day. Get to 3 o'clock. I've got to go and pick the kids up. And then when they get home, that's it. Game over. You've got no time. So the rule of going out and having a walk still applies to me. And I'm going to make myself do that. Usually I train outside, but I do that in between sessions of training people outside, which I'm not doing now. I'm training people from my house, as in online from my house. So getting out to go training takes me an extra, 20 minutes, half an hour, which I can find. But if I'm not able to do that on that day, then I don't really get outside. So I've made it a rule for myself to be out walking. Now I've got a dog, so I take him out for a walk 2 hours a day, every single day. Isn't he a lucky boy? So that's my main thing of because there's going to be lots and lots of mental health problems affected by this, physical problems affected by this, by people who do use the gym to go down there and have a trainer to show them what to do, who maybe don't want to do that online. But like Tracy said last week as well, she's obviously a big advocate for just doing whatever you like. And, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Just get out there and go for a walk. That's my biggest thing of if you stay indoors all day and you start to wallow in it, which I used to do actually when I was younger as well, and I'd wallow in it, and then I ended up just doing that, and I never went out. I've just remembered that actually. When I was much younger, I used to just stay in and watch telly and watch box sets. I was one of those people who'd shut the curtains to stop the sun coming in because it was I couldn't see the telly properly. And I just became really out of shape, and it was really bad. And I don't want that to happen to people because it's only this is only going to hopefully be for a month, 6 weeks. We were speaking about this before we started recording as well, but we don't know. It could go on for longer. Who knows? So rather than sitting there thinking when is this going to end? And then if it doesn't end, going, right, it hasn't ended. Now I'm going to get even more angry. Just nip that in the bud right now and go for a walk. And we've only just started this. We'll probably be on for another half an hour or so. So go now and listen to the rest of this while you're walking. See? There you go.
Shall I go now?
Yes. Yeah. See you later.
I'll see you in half an hour, guys.
I mean, for myself, I mean, we've started. The big thing that I did through the first lockdown was for the members and things. I recorded a daily video every morning, just for sort of 5 minutes, just as a little daily update, just to discuss, what was going on, what had happened the day before, if there was any members' birthdays or someone had done particularly well, and what was going on with the classes we had on that day and any news that people needed to be updated. And that was a really good way of just setting myself up with a daily habit, so that first thing in the morning I'd wake up, I'd have a pint of water, I've had a small coffee, record my video, and then crack on with the day. So I actually started that today, and I've named this lockdown part 2, like Hot Shots part 2. If you were around in the 90s and you remember watching
Blast from the Past.
Blast from the Past, exactly. And this is now lockdown part 2. This time it's personal, you see. So this is the sequel. So and I sort of set my guys a bit of a challenge this morning. It wasn't just for my guys, it's for everyone, but it was for myself as well. Because when this happened on Saturday, I've seen lots and lots of things, and I'm sure everyone has, or when it happened a Saturday a week ago, because you're listening to this a week later. But when these lockdowns get announced, or when there's any major change that kind of rubs people up the wrong way slightly, if you go on Facebook or any social media, people straight away are kind of saying, oh, this is going to be a nightmare. It's going to be awful. This is going to be hell. This is terrible. Christmas is going to be cancelled, or they're just, like we spoke about last week. Tracy, I think, almost finished with the Henry Ford quote, whether you think you can or you can't, you're probably right, So however you set this lockdown up in your mind before we even get into it, some people are almost writing this month off or being very doom and gloom before we even start. So I set my guys 3 questions this morning just to try and mull over and think. The first one being, like Peter's alluded to already, what did you learn from the last time? We've all done this before. What worked for you last time? What didn't work for you last time? Obviously, the only difference, like Peter has said, is the weather's not going to be quite so nice this time. But, we've all got the ability to put a jumper on or put a coat on and go outside. So you just dress appropriately. So what did you learn from last time? What are you most looking forward to, this time? So I know there's a list of things I'm really looking forward to this month. I mean, I've been working, solidly since I had 1 week off in August, actually, since the first lockdown in March. I'm looking forward to a bit more time at home with the kids again, because that's going to be nice, doing, not maybe having to do the 6 a.m. sessions that I sometimes do, because people can maybe be a bit more flexible with when they train, or I'm going to be doing it online, And also for my own training, I really enjoyed training last time through lockdown, because I just had 1 or 2 kettlebells, kept it very, very basic, and actually got stronger through lockdown because I was limited to what I could do. So that was a good thing. And then last question being, how are you going to personally be better than you are now a month from now? So, and better is very subjective, but it could be anything, couldn't it? You just, how are you going to be better in the start of December than you are in the start of November? And I think if you approach, or if we and I approach lockdown with those kind of questions in mind, your brain will always give you the answer to the question that you ask it, So if you ask your brain the question, what's going to be rubbish the next month, you'll come up with 20 answers, If you ask the brain the question, what's going to be fantastic about the next month, you will come up with answers. And there will be stuff that will be fantastic about this month, even if you have to search a little bit harder to find it. So for me, I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be a change. We all learned. I know all 3 of us learned a load last time through the lockdown, didn't we? I'd never done anything online with people before, and then the first couple of weeks it's a bit awkward, and then you grow to it, and then the thought of going back to face is a little bit daunting after being online for 3 or 4 or 5 months, because but you just adapt, don't you? So that's what I'm going to try and bring to it, and I've spoke for a while. I'm aware of that. So,
well, 2 things have just come out of what you said, and one of them, and this is a quote, and I can't remember. I know Ranulph Fiennes says this, but I don't know who said it originally. But
I thought you were going to say this is a quote from Hot Shots Part 2.
I can't think of one off the top of my head. Actually, I probably, there's probably one in there somewhere. Is that the one when he dresses as Rambo? It is, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, it is. There is no bad weather. There's only poor clothes choices. And that's when, that is a huge deal. That is a huge deal. Because I can't go out there, it's raining, And it's like, well, just put some You know, waterproof trousers cost about £5 just to go over your trousers. Get yourself a waterproof jacket and you're away. And then the other one was you saying about projecting into the future about the about this lockdown. And like, there's been so many memes and stuff on Facebook, you know, or like saying like, "God, next week's already been like really tiring." You know what I mean? It's only Monday. So that's people already looking a week ahead to the end of next week saying like, "I'm going to be knackered." And it's like, well, what do you need to do now? What do you need? And this goes back to what I've used with my guys for ages, and I've spoke about before, is what do you need to do this week to make it better? What's the one thing you need to do to make this week go really well? And just focus on that. Because what you focus on is what you'll get, right? And I've said it before, there was someone online, one of my online guys was it said something across this week that we were doing something, and then they were like, "Oh, there's another thing I've got to add to all my failures this week." And I was like, "You're not meant to be making a list of failures. You're meant to be making a list of wins." You know, so that puts you in the mood you're in right now. So if you start making a list of wins, a list of the things you're going to do that are positive, and then do those, and then reflect on them every single day, write down 3 wins and how you're going to take that into the following week, and the following week, this lockdown will disappear, no problem.
I suppose a lot of challenge people have though with their mindset is something I have myself, is I generally, the one thing I've learned since becoming a personal trainer is that I have to take action on things.
Yep.
I have to take action because my natural propensity is to drift into more negative thinking. And one of the reasons the fitness industry attracted me is because it was very empowering. And I think one of the reasons I left my previous role was because I didn't have a sense of not control, because I'm not a control freak, but I do like to be empowered to make decisions and know that if I'm doing something, I get the payback for it. I get the thing. And I think one thing that lockdown did, the first time it happened, people were caught by surprise, and people didn't know how to process it. But like with anything, like when a balloon, you know, what was the famous quote by Hitchcock? It's not the bang that scares you, it's the anticipation. So we kind of know we're going into 4 weeks of lockdown. We kind of know what's in store. And we've kind of, for many people, they've got that groove that they've greased, and they keep running back and forth. And it's easy to go into those negative mindsets. And we also intellectually understand what we need to do, just like with fitness and nutrition. So I know I need to exercise 2 to 3 times a week, do some low-level cardio. I know I need to eat 3 meals a day and eat plenty of protein, loads of vegetables. We all know those things. And the same with mindset. We know those things. We know that we have to make positive steps and action. But doing it is very different. And I think what I'm trying to get at is, we know the solution, but the solution really only happens in that what's the bridge between where someone is in terms of negative mindset and the solution to actually even get to act. Because I think that's what a lot of people struggle with. They kind of, you can talk to them and say, I know, I just feel like crap.
Yeah.
You know, and getting someone to act on it is tough.
This has just made me think, actually, because I was talking to somebody the other day about like reading books and stuff like that. And I used to read a lot. I go through waves of reading a lot and then not reading, and reading a lot and not reading. And at the minute, I'm going through a wave of not reading a lot. I'm reading a book about sleep. Is it Matthew Walker? Book about why we sleep. And I've been reading it for about 2 months because I'm not into reading at the minute. And I was saying to somebody, I feel bad because I'm not reading, so I'm not learning stuff. I'm not using my brain. But then I've just come off a course that I've done, which has taught me a whole new way of helping people that has been across this year. So actually, all I'm doing is I'm probably just fatigued in my brain of like, hang on, how much more information do I need in there? Okay. And this is where, this is linked into what you just said, Paul, but Mike Sweeney, who we had on the podcast a few weeks ago, the dietitian, I was in a program with him, like a mindset type of program 3, 4, 5 years ago, for a couple of years as well. And he was really good because we were all kind of like, you know, on the same sort of path to trying to deal with our mindset, right? Which is why I'm finding lockdown okay. few years ago, it would have been like an absolute explosion, and I would have gone mental. But now I don't. And we used to we used to sit and I read this book, and it was just, it was like you've just said, Paul, it was amazing. It was brilliant. It was great. And it's like, Mike was like, right, tell me 3 things that you learned from it, and what you and how you're going to implement those. And it's like, what? No, it was a really good book though. And it's like, nah, tell us 3 things. And you could always name 3 things and say how you're going to implement them and how they would help you and all of that. But unless you actually really think about it and write it down, it's just another book you've read. And then someone else will mention something. You go, I read a book about that and it was really good. Here's what you should do. When you haven't even done it yourself. So he was really good with that. And that's one of the things, like you've just said, with the fitness industry and everything. It doesn't force you, but it makes you want to live what you say, and be an example of not of how to do things, but an example of why I do this and why I do it this way and why it works for me. And the principles behind it. And then it can be, and then you can open that up to anybody. If it's for them, brilliant. And if they want to take it, they can run with it. And that's bloody management speak, isn't it? But anyway, if they want to use it, they can. And if not, they can go and find their own way, But it's those sorts of things, and people keeping you in check. So that's another thing as well. Because again, with the mental health thing, is like, there'll be people about who you don't get to see, you won't be getting to see, but just send them a text, appreciation messages, all that. They go a really long way. And when people think they feel weird sending them, imagine receiving one, just someone, how are you doing? I'm not worried about you, but how are you doing? Is everything okay? You okay during lockdown? Do you need anything from me, by the way? Thanks for being my friend and all that sort of stuff. And people just read that and go, oh, brilliant. It'll make your day, won't it? So just loads of little things like that, really make a difference, I think, especially now.
I was just going to say, I think that what Paul said was so true, because, and it's a typical one that, you see a lot with people around, certainly mental health and depression, this thing whereby a lot of people will have said and will say, oh, just, think positive, or, pull your socks up, or, these kind of, it's very, very hard to switch your mind once you get into, so what I kind of visualize it as, and I can't remember who told me this many years ago, but we're always on a kind of a spiral, either like a helter-skelter kind of thing. You're either moving down the spiral or you're moving up the spiral. You're going one of the ways. And for me, like Paul mentioned, action is the thing that actually creates a change, and a change in impetus. And we all have, and I have, and I know, and it's being aware of the kind of the triggers and the markers that we have, which sort of set us on that downward spiral. But sometimes, and this is going to sound strange, I'm sure others will relate, sometimes we kind of almost want to feel bad. Do you know what I mean? You get into a thought pattern where you're feeling quite negative, and you want to continue. You do. It's totally.
It's a comfortable trajectory.
Yeah.
We've practiced it, and we've all practiced feeling down, and you can actually feel quite comfortable because there's no risk to it, because you know what to expect.
There's certainty. It's an
easy thing. It's an easy place to be. It's an easy place to get to.
Yeah.
Going the other way is harder because it takes.
And it's finding, but it's in many ways it's recognizing when you're starting on that down spiral. So one of the things which I spoke about earlier with some people was, and I spoke about this way back in like March, is not being obsessed by the news and watching the news every day, because literally with the rolling news that we have now, and this is something that everyone says now, I know, but the rolling news is it's negative news going into your head 24 hours a day if it's on in the background. The other thing is, you can go, when you go down those kind of rabbit holes on Facebook where you read someone's written a comment or a post, and then there's comments on it, and then people just start commenting, and it's just one thing that I learned, and we all know, but years and years ago, you will never, ever, ever win an argument on social media or Facebook. There is zero point in engaging in any stuff like that on Facebook and social media. And there's
they say that if you argue with an idiot, someone from the distance can't tell the difference. You know,
yeah.
There's also another element of that with what James has just said. Sorry, James.
That's right.
Just to interject with this at the minute is in an argument though as well. You just said you can't win an argument on social media. Even if you did, what happens? Nothing happens. No, you know, it's like if you're in an argument with your wife or something like that, you know, and then like you might prove a point and you go, right, brilliant. But then you'll probably feel bad because you're like, okay, now what? Like, what happens now? And then you're like, I better do something nice now because I've just destroyed you. You know what I mean? In an argument, it's like nobody wins.
No, nobody wins. And so the thing is, I've never, ever to this day posted anything mildly political or mildly coronavirus related on social media because it's pointless. Why do you do it? Do you know what I mean? To, like you say, to point score against people, to have an argument. So this list of things, I come up with some things this morning that I'm going to share with my guys later, is about where through this lockdown is avoid politics as much as you can, because whether you like it or not, there's nothing you can do about it at the moment. Decisions that are being made at the moment, you totally, we spoke about it before, things that are inside your circle of concern and your circle of influence, and they intersect. What's happening this week, you ain't going to change. You know what I mean? You are not going to change it. So you deal with it and you get on with it and you make the best of it. You know, so avoid the politics, avoid the division, avoid drama, avoid arguments, like I said, because they're pointless. Avoid anger and avoid blame. Just avoid all of that stuff, because that's going to start you down that kind of path, you know, of negative feelings. And you just need to protect what goes in your mind as much as we really should protect what goes into our body, you know, because this is just so precious. And but you know,
there's very much, I mean, fitness industry reflects this as much as politics and anything else. There is a kind of culture of division, and people do it in nutrition. So I'm only keto, and any other nutrition program just doesn't work, and people get very set in their ways. And I remember you talking about that right at the beginning of when we started these podcasts, you know, that people can become almost religious about the nutrition. People can become very religious or very, very divided about their opinions on politics. And what you end up doing is setting yourself against someone. And there's always conflict in life in some way, you know. Let's not pretend that we can live in a very, very fluffy, happy place. There is always going to be some kind of conflict. However, if you just set yourself up with communities of conflict, whether it's online, set yourself up politically with conflict, watch the TV, which is dividing people between us and them and different viewpoints, which is good to know other viewpoints, don't get me wrong, but there is definitely a divisive element to these things. I'd like to think that you should be seeking out some way of creating communities that are inclusive. And that doesn't mean communities which only have one way of thinking, because that leads to the division again. You know, it's like Facebook is a culmination of filtering out opinions we don't like and demonstrating our life that we want everyone else to see. That's not a kind of community I'm thinking, but a kind of community that understands that, for example, like in the health world, health is complex. That there is some simplicity to it, obviously, because, you know, we do make it more complex than it is, but everyone comes in with different goals, different desires, different starting points, and that they should be seen as a support network. And I think that's what I'm trying to do with my business is say, okay, well, you come in here, yes, you're training twice a week and you're eating well, but there's also all these other people who've been through this and they want to make something better, and they don't really care about they don't really care about whether you're overweight or not, or they don't care about if you can't do burpees as fast as them or whatever. It doesn't matter. That's not what they're here for. They're here because they want to share an experience. I think that often missing in most people's lives, and lockdown's going to throw that right in the open because you can't reach people. So we've got to do it online, you know?
Yeah. I think that's brilliant. That's obviously one of the reasons why we do this podcast, right? because it's just to try and be open-minded and to try and, because we've all had these discussions millions of times. So it's like, right, well, why don't we do it in front of a lot of people as well who haven't had these discussions? And that's where Tracy last week, honestly, it was brilliant. It was just, if you haven't listened to it, listen to it. It was a Tracy monologue and it was just so good. Honestly, she was brilliant. In the way she said everything we were talking about, she was just like, yeah, that's fine. People can do that, but you know, that's cool. Here's what I do. I can't tell people what to do. I can tell people what I do, and they can decide whether they like it or not. And that's exactly what you've just been saying about all these things, like posting on Facebook and like posting your political opinions on Facebook and that, which there's not wrong with. You can do that if you want. I don't do that, and I know you guys don't do it, because it's just inviting an argument. Whereas, I have people comment on some of the stuff I do who don't agree with it, and I'm like, well, that's fine. You don't have to, but I'm just showing what I do and what I do with the guys, and they enjoy it, and they come because they enjoy it, and it's as simple as that. And if you don't like it, then that's fine as well. But going back to the news thing as well, I haven't watched the news for ages, but at the beginning of all this and in the first lockdown, my good lady was watching it and telling me about it every day. She was like, oh, there's been this many new cases, there's been this many deaths, and she was telling me every day, and I was like, can you just stop telling me? And then she was working from home one morning. I was just setting up to do the online session with the guys, and it was the 100th day of lockdown. So they were having a review of all the crap that had happened over that 100 days, right? And she was watching it, and I was like, can you go and watch that somewhere else or turn it off? It was on like the iPad just sitting on the table. And I was like, really, honestly, because it was depressing me. This was at like 6:45 in the morning, and I was just like, this is not good for
But isn't it easy to do that? It's easy to review the bad stuff.
Yeah.
You don't have to work for that. You don't have to work for bad things. They just happen if you don't leave things attended to. It's much harder to say, I'm going to pursue excellence, or I'm going to pursue something, the tougher route, because I know it's worthwhile long term. It's going to better me. It's easy to turn around and say, this doesn't work, this doesn't work, this doesn't work. It's easy to be a no man. No, I don't want you to do that. It's very difficult to be the person coming up with an idea, trying to experiment with it, trying to explore it. And that is uncomfortable to put yourself in that position. But it's very easy to say, oh, I don't think that works. That wasn't very good. I don't like what you did there. And the news, it's easy news, isn't it? You don't have to be creative with that. You just go, well, what went wrong over the last thing? So let's just make it,
Well, number one there, everybody rewind that. And if you can see Paul as well, he sounded like Michael Caine there. He went, no. But anyway, there was that. That was my Michael Caine impression, by the way.
I only asked you.
Stop throwing.
I've got the glasses on.
That's from Zulu. Anyway.
Yeah.
But the other thing I was going to say was, and I don't know that this is true or not. It might be true, but the guy behind one of the landlords of one of the pubs I go to, after lockdown had opened up and everything like that, we're in the pub, and I think it was the first day that there'd been 0 deaths from coronavirus since it all began in I don't know if it was in England or in the UK, but it was a significant thing, and there was no reports on it apparently, or he hadn't seen any reports on the news. So that's quite telling as well. And it's like, I don't know, like I say, I don't know if that's true or not, but I can kind of believe it, but I don't really watch the news. But there's definitely much more balance towards all the chaos that can happen out of this, rather than, just like I say, just keeping an eye out for friends and family and people down the street, and, just like putting little, I live in a flat with 5 other flats in the house and the whole street, and there's some elderly people down here and all that. So I've given out my phone number to everybody and just said, if you need anything, just give us a text or whatever. Cause I can go and do stuff.
They accept that from the man that wields a mace in the street.
That's because they're all really scared of me, because I'm a scary man. I'm a scary, small, timid man. I don't know. There's a couple of the like, there's a lady up the road who's 72 and another lady in her 80s, and I'm scared of them. I want to be like them when I'm older. They're amazing. they're formidable women, shall we say.
So going back to what we were talking about, just with regards to there are behaviours that we do that we can probably recognise that set us on the downwards trajectory. There are, but obviously sort of paradoxically, or on the flip side of that, there are behaviours that can set us on the upwards trajectory, and we've spoke about lots of those before. But I don't know if you guys have got any ideas about things. You talk, Peter, obviously a lot about just getting up and going out for a walk, or there's things that we can do to shift us from. It's an old Tony Robbins thing that he says, that you either change your sort of your physiology, and you do something, you move physically to change the way you feel, or you change your focus and your perspective. So moving does change your chemistry in your mind, in your brain, obviously. That's proven. So but what sort of things do you think, or maybe your guys, or things you may have recommended for others, to, if they feel themselves on that, just aware of that start, just to kind of shift and just to almost change the course of their day?
I'd say what you call a pattern interrupt. So you just go and do something. Like, it doesn't have to be much, just something slightly different. And then you'll forget the thing that was taking you on that spiral anyway, which will probably still be there, and you won't forget it forever, but for now you will. There was a thing I heard, and this is about going for a walk again as well, but I use that a lot. But I think it was Jason Kane. Jason Kane. I heard him on something ages ago. And he was like basically trying to get like his people. He was saying, right, if you finished your day of work, if you are at home or whatever, just go and put your trainers on. You might not leave the house and go for a walk, but just put your trainers on. If you're going to load the dishwasher, or I don't know, do the dishes or play with the kids or whatever, put your trainers on before you do it. And then you've got your trainers on. And then it was like, right now, so if you're about to load the dishwasher, leave your trainers by the front door. And just before you do, go and get your trainers from the front door, put them on there, then come back and load the dishwasher or whatever. But now that they're by the front door, you might put them on, open the front door and go out. And just walk around the block or something like that. And then eventually that becomes like it ingrains it into your life. And again, we spoke about this when we were talking about forming habits, and that just sounds ridiculous. It sounds like a silly thing to do, but it'll actually, it'll change the way it'll change what you're doing. And like you said, it changes your brain chemistry and everything. It takes your mind away from the thing you were thinking about, the thing you were wallowing in.
Yeah, the most straightforward one that I think when at the start of the first lockdown was when you wake up in the morning, first thing, drink a pint of water. You know what I mean? Something like or the one that the guy talks about, get up and make your bed in the morning. If you can start your day with something which is even the tiniest measure of success, and you said you'd do something and you did it. It doesn't really have it. What it is inconsequential. Like you said you'd do something, you made a commitment to do it, and you did it. If it's drink a pint of water, it's drink a pint of water. But then that can lead on to other things. I think that's a massive thing. Do what you say you're going to do, but most people try it and they say, I'm going to run 5K every day, and then. Yeah. And they don't, but if you said, I'm going to drink a pint of water first thing in the morning when I wake up, and they do that for a week, fantastic. And then I'm going to drink a pint of water first thing every morning, and I'm going to make my bed as soon as I wake up. Great. And I'm going to do 1,000 steps a day. You layer success upon success, don't you? But don't start with something that's too much of a stretch. It's straightforward stuff.
Don't overwhelm yourself with a lot. I mean, I think there's two things I would think of. The first one is, how do you set yourself off going in a different direction? And that means a paradigm shift.
Well, start again, Paul. Sorry, you paused for a minute there.
Right. Pause.
You said there's two things you're going to say.
We missed them. They're the best thing I was going to say.
If there's one thing you're going to listen to this podcast for, it was those two things. Anyway.
Can't repeat it. Two things. First one is we need to adopt a different paradigm. And if your paradigm currently means you follow a particular route that's negative, sometimes we've got to go wholesale and create a whole new way of thinking. And sometimes that means adopting a community that follows that way of thinking. We've discussed this in the past. Sometimes there's no option but to think and take action in certain communities, because that is just what they do. And therefore, it's not that you won't have negative thoughts. It's just that they won't be the defining feature of your experience within that community. I'm sure when they come to see you, James, and same with you, Peter, you're saying, right, well, where do you start? Well, I can't do this, I can't do that. It doesn't matter. We're going to do this. And all of a sudden you're thinking about what can I do? Because that's the way you talk. You talking a different language. You know, there's certain cultures that don't have words for things. You know, what's the cliche? 100 words for snow. You know, we have 100 words for drizzle. You know, the snow is a bit more evocative. You know, and so you start thinking, you know, changing the language, changing the behavior. And then the second one was, and it was something actually I had a client send me today. You know, that PT, he's quite controversial. He's not controversial. He likes to push buttons. James Smith, I think his name is.
Oh yeah.
He's the Instagram guy.
Yeah.
But anyway, I watched one of his things today, and he had a good thing about motivation, which was the difference between intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. And I thought it was quite interesting. I mean, he puts more swear words in than I probably would do, but I think he's quite articulate. I mean, he talks about, you know, sometimes you're doing things because you know you have to do them, but you don't really want to do them, and you're looking for external motivation. And he used the example of working. So you might not like your job, but you want to get paid, and so you do it. And then it's about finding that internal motivation to do something. And sometimes you just got, and his conclusion, I think, at the end of that short kind of Instagram thing was that, you know, you just got to find something you want to do and be honest about what you want to do. You know, don't always just say, well, you've got to do this. This is the only route. It may be for someone, you know, the old Jane Fonda videos from the 1980s are exactly how they like to keep fit. And we will say, well, actually, there's modern things, there's this, that, and the other, and you could be using this, that, and the other. And if they like it, then just do it. And if they find the motivation and it makes them want to show up, then they'll do it. So I think it's about trying to find the route that's a positive route for you. I don't think anyone would admit that a negative route is the option they'd like to take. But don't do something because you think someone else may approve.
I think I might have a copy of that Jane Fonda thing I might have bought it when
you've certainly got the leggings.
I might have bought it when I was a teenager. Anyway, or was that the Cindy Crawford one? That was it.
That was a good one.
Anyway, we'll not go there.
So we can't see your DVD collection in the background.
I mean, that's the thing. That's, you know, lots of the guests that we've had on so far, haven't they? Follow that thinking within their own you know, area of expertise or their own lane. You know, like Mike Sweeney, dietitian, was very much like, you have to find something that works for you. You know, don't worry about you know, what, you know, your friend at work says, or what the newspaper's saying this week, or you know, the biggest selling book at the moment. You find the route that you can sustain and that you enjoy and that works for you. You know,
well, imagine if Tracy had locked onto something different. I'm sure she would be an expert in that. You know, so she's an expert in kettlebells, and particularly in the swing. And it's just like, that just makes sense to me. I'm going to do it. I really enjoy it. But I'm sure if she took up skiing or something else, so she would have put equal amount of energy and become equally as fit and probably as equally as accomplished. But you know, she just found something that worked for her.
Well, that's the other thing as well, because I think, who is it? Like, what's the name of that book? The Monkey Paradox or whatever it's called.
Chimp Paradox.
Chimp Paradox. Yeah, I've never read that, right? But I've read, somebody explained it to me, and I was like, oh yeah, and I can't remember what book it was. It was like, oh, I read this book, which is basically the same thing, but written by someone else in a different way, explaining, you know, there's only a certain amount of ways to do things, isn't there? You know, there's certain, if you want to put on muscle, you do, like, you know, 8 to 10 reps of something 3 or 4 times through, do that a few times a week. You're going to do and eat more than you normally would, and it's going to happen, right? If you want to lose weight, you just eat less and move more. It's as simple as that. But it's not, because otherwise everyone will be doing it, right? But if rather than someone going, you just got to eat less and move more, you've got to do this. It's like, if you can find someone who says it in a way that means something to you, and then you can take that and take action. Like I was going back to the Mike Sweeney thing earlier, like, what 3 things did you learn from that, and what are you going to do about it, and blah, blah. If something we've said makes you want to do that, brilliant. If something we've said, or absolutely nothing we've said doesn't, like, hasn't worked, that's also cool as well, because maybe we're not saying it in the right way for you. But that's, it doesn't stop your journey into trying to look for the right thing for you to do. It's kind of just, eventually something will turn up. The coach always turns up, at the right time. It's always the case, because it's the right time for you. So that's where, what we're saying there, like you said, that James Smith thing, he uses a lot more swear words than you and all that. And a lot of people react to that and they love it. Absolutely love it. He's got a massive following.
Yeah.
So it's horses for courses, to use another cliche.
It's like Rick Brown, Mr. Mace Man, loves the mace. That's his way of training, that he enjoys doing that. So he does it, so it's finding, like we've said all along, really finding that thing that you love, because you're going to be doing this, or we're going to be doing this, and for the rest of your life. So if we're all in our 40s now, I'm hoping that in 40 years' time we're all still going to be training. So you've got to find something that you enjoy, but
that doesn't always mean that it should be fun.
No.
Yeah, because sometimes we love things that we hate doing. It's like relationships. You love your partner, but you also have arguments. It's never a simple. But it's, as long as you know why you're doing it and why you want to do it, you're not always going to have an easy route to success. But you'll know why you're doing it.
Or you enjoy the benefits that it gives you, or you enjoy the results of that. It's like you were talking, and Tracy was talking last week about kettlebell sport. It's in that moment when you're in a lot of discomfort training, are you enjoying that? You're kind of, it's weird, isn't it? It's kind of like you're enjoying
very weird
the fact that
It is weird.
You're enjoying the fact that you're getting better. I think that the main thing that why a lot of people, to take this back to kind of fitness again, the reason why a lot of people drop out from mainstream big box corporate Globo gym type places is because they go along there, they do A, B, C, D 3 times a week for 6 months, but they've got no reference of improvement, or no reference of progress, or no reference of achievement. So I was doing some training with Guillaume and Paul yesterday. I'm trying to get stronger in my press. I was pressing a 28, and even if I can press it, 1 more rep each side than I could 2 weeks ago, I've got that improvement, and I couldn't do that 2 weeks ago, and I did it now. So it's tying that, but that's nothing to do with how much I weigh when I step on the scales, or what I look like when I look in the mirror. It's that kind of that level of improvement and achievement that I love when my members get, where they feel, you deadlift an extra 5 kilos or whatever it is. We just did the tactical strength last weekend. There's nothing better for someone than to do something, to push themselves, to be uncomfortable and get to the end of it, and know that they've achieved more than they could do 6 months ago.
What I find amazing is the people who can't see that as well. So they're doing stuff and they're going, oh, for God's sake, how's this going? And I'll go, right, what were you doing? Remember when you tried that 6 months ago and you couldn't do it? Or you've done 1 extra round of a complex or whatever it is. You've done something more, and they'll go, oh yeah, I forgot about that. And it's like, well, that's why I'm reminding you. That's what I'm here for. That tactical strength challenge, by the way, I'm not going to say what I wrote on Facebook, but bloody hell, that was amazing.
Good numbers there, really good numbers.
They were great, yeah.
I'd like to know how you program all of that within the car. We'll talk about it afterwards.
Yes, we'll talk about it when we stop recording.
But go, just final points. I know we're going on now. We should. We had a slow start, and now we don't want to stop. What I was going to say was
longer, aren't they?
What Paul said, and what you said, I think as well, is I had a really lovely thing I was going to say, and I think it just popped out of my head.
Stick with us a minute; you'll not be long.
Edit this out. Edit this silence out.
I think of a good story.
It's age. It's age, is what it is.
It is.
How are you, Peter?
Yeah, I'm all right. I'll tell you what, shall I go back and start playing it from the beginning again? And then you can, like, the thing that was said, it'll trigger it in your head. Yeah.
What will
This
we-
isn't helping, is it?
you both just said something that triggered something in my mind, and now it's gone.
Something about the tactical strength challenge, lifting stuff, remembering your.
Oh no, that's it. Yeah, it's back. I'm back in the room.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was, I think, going back to what we were talking about with the news and social media, I think most people's default perspective setting is negative. That's the thing, and about themselves as well. You know what I mean? It's the internal dialogue that a lot of people have naturally because of, I don't know why that is, but most people look at themselves and they can't see how amazing they are or how good, you know, most people's default setting is negative rather than positive.
Like body dysmorphia or something like that, but kind of like
just general, you know, just like everything, you know, it's like what's happening now, you know, it's the easiest thing is to see the negative in everything in life and everyone in life, you know.
I've said this to people, and I used to be like this, and I've noticed this in people quite a lot, is people pleasers as well. People who want to please everybody around them, but they're not happy themselves. And it's like, you know, they'll be doing things, and then they'll sacrifice something that they're doing for somebody else, which there's nothing wrong with, you know. But if you're doing that for everybody as well, like, okay, you sacrifice things for your family and stuff like that, but then if you're sacrificing things for your friends, and then the bloke down the street and this and that and da-da-da and all that, and you're helping all these people, or supposedly helping all these people without helping yourself, you kind of get, and they go, yeah, but I don't want to let that person down. And it's like, but you're happy to let yourself down. So start there. Stop letting yourself down, and then everything else becomes easier anyway, doesn't it?
I think we'll take a pause there because this is going into something else that we can go into this, you know, a lot more. And
we're off script.
Started that.
Right. Okay. So I will let Mr. Paul Bassett do his roundup because he started off, so he can finish us off as well, so to speak.
my Jerry Springer out.
Yeah, go Jerry, come on.
Take care of each other.
Yourselves.
So lockdown 2.0. We're a week in. We're recording this a couple of days after its announcement. So the week after, we'd love to know any comments that you have about how you're managing it, what you're putting in place in order to have the best possible end of the year, how you want to go into 2021. And perhaps that's something we can talk about, is how do we make 2021 a success based on what we've learned from 2020, because it hasn't finished yet. And there's still lots you can do. There's still different ways you can achieve things. You know, we've all had interruption, but all three of us have had interruptions within our business, and that's going to have a knock-on effect to our clients. They're going to be interrupted. They're going to have thought they were doing one thing. You know, they like coming in and they can't come in. But how we deal with it as individuals, and we've got to lead our clients. I'm going to be able to feed that back to you guys as well, who are listening, to see how we're dealing with lockdown the second time round and what we're learning differently from the first one. So please put your comments under any of our kind of Facebook posts, or just email us at info@healthoddity.com. We got an email address? I don't even know, but if not, basically, I just made one up, I think.
We will have an email address. We will have a website.
I think it's just healthoddity@gmail.com.
Okay, so there you go, simple. And anything you want to say, guys, to round us off?
No, just a really enjoyable conversation. Thank you to both of you. Thank you to everyone who's listening. And look forward to keep doing this throughout the lockdown and hopefully being of some value to you guys. Thank you.
Peter?
What?
Over to you. Professional. I remember we sat down, all three of us, going, well, we have to say things that are going to be, it's all just.
Yeah, I know. My Go Jerry thing was, I said it earlier.
Okay.
You know, that was the little, that was meant to, well, it wasn't, that was my little finish off, but.
It's like when you're going to do a gig and they go off and there's an encore, but then they go off again. There's going to be an encore.
I'm going to be, if I carry on, I'm going to be like EMF, and I'll be doing Unbelievable twice. So really? I'm not doing that.
Okay. Right. Okay. So on that note, see you next week.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.